You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
The following podcast is under review.
After reviewing the play, the call on the ice stands. We gotta go!
You're listening to the Under Review Hockey Podcast, your Niagara source for all trending NHL topics, previews, analysis, in-depth discussions, and live coverage of events like the NHL Draft, Trade Deadline, and Free Agency. Here are your hosts, Brandon Caputo and Kyle Kitt.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the relaunched and new and improved Armchair GM Sports Network. This is the Under Review Podcast and your July 28th, 2020 edition. Your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here from the good old Niagara region. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Armchair GM Pod. Like us on Facebook by searching the Armchair GMs Network. As well, follow us on Instagram by searching Armchair GM Sports Network. We are offline today, but we are live usually on Spreaker.com by searching the Armchair GMs. As well, these platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Deezer. We are on all those different platforms for you, so wherever you listen to your podcast, we are there for you. As well, check out our website, our updated website, armchairgmsports.com, for all content on that website. All of our sponsors are on there as well. Go check that out. As always, I'm one of your hosts of the Under Review Podcast, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Capoots13 with a Canadian Z. And I'm always joined on the hockey portion of the network by my co-host and co-owner of the Armchair GM Sports Network, Kyle. You can follow him on Twitter at JustKyle51. Kyle, we're back.
We're back. We're back in... No, I can't say we're back in black. I guess our logo has a little bit of black in it. It's got like dark blue. Yeah. But I absolutely love our new logo. But I did just notice one thing, that we haven't updated our Skype logo. You can still see our old logo.
Skype. It'll get updated. Don't worry.
But man, what a beautiful new logo. That's something that we got done.
Yep, guys.
Beautiful.
We've been off for a few weeks, getting everything ready to go here for the return of sports. We'll see how long it lasts. But with that being said, got a brand new logo, we got new commercials, new sponsors, new intros. I want to give a shout out to our good buddy Brad Best, a on-air radio personality, for doing the voiceover intros for all of our shows. Brad, greatly appreciated. Thank you, man. Does a great job and has a great voice for it.
He's really best at doing it, isn't he?
He is. He is the best. That's why he's got best in his last name. But guys, the Under Review Podcast, and I must say, it's been a while. It's been a while since we did an episode. And the last time we talked on this podcast was about the draft lottery and how that went, and I ranted for about an hour about the format and how it was rigged, and maybe I had a little bit of incoherent thoughts during that time. But the draft lottery, the second portion of it's still going to take place, and one of these playoff teams who gets knocked out is going to get Alexis Lafreniere, which I just don't understand the point of that. And it's, do teams just go straight up not, they have an excuse to lose now. I mean, they can't be too mad about it. They can go back and say, hey, we lost, but you know what? We still have a consolation prize of the first overall pick to get to. So something just doesn't seem right to me about that. But again, we're here to talk.
We're living in a new world that we did a couple of months ago.
Yeah. To quote Kevin Costner from Draft Day, great football movie. But we're here to talk about round one of the playoffs, how that's going to break down. We're going to go over the seeding rounds for the seeding round robin round for the top four teams, how that's going to shake out, and we're going to briefly talk about each series, who we think is going to move on to the second round of the playoffs and everything with that. So Kyle, got anything to talk about before we get into the playoff stuff today?
I mean, I'm just excited for hockey just to be back, especially like today, the day we're recording, it's the 28th. Exhibition games start today, so each team's playing one exhibition game each for the next couple of days. So I'm just excited. I think just excited. I don't care if it doesn't mean anything, these exhibition games. I'm just excited to watch hockey again. I do have some things to say about the exhibition games, which I don't want to complain, but I just feel like they could have done better in a couple of matchups if they were going for the rivalry matchups. Because some of the matchups they did are only rivalries if you're doing them in the cities that they're from. The one example was the first game that's kicking off tonight at 4:00 is Pittsburgh and Philly. Yeah, to a lot of Pittsburgh and Philly fans, that's a rivalry game, but I feel, I can't really speak for them because I'm not a fan of either team. I think that's a rivalry if you're in one of those Pennsylvania cities, because then you get the atmosphere of both fans being in the building and it's just chaos. I think if you're going to do something like this in a hub city where that aspect of it doesn't matter, you kind of want to open with something that it's going to draw attention, like a Pittsburgh and Washington.
A national level
yeah,
audience.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
that's why I say they should do Pittsburgh and Washington. You got Ovi versus Crosby this late in their careers. Both have won Stanley Cups. Why not open and get hockey back with two of the people that have led the game for the last decade? Like, why couldn't they just give us that? Why did they give us Washington and Carolina tomorrow? You're telling me you couldn't replace Philly there?
especially at the time slot of it tomorrow. I believe it's a
4:00.
Yeah, 4:00 game. Who's going to be watching that 4:00 on a Wednesday?
Just I don't know. If you want to come back with an exhibition game to relaunch hockey since the pause, they should have done Pittsburgh, Washington again. I don't want to complain. I'm just saying that it just makes more sense to me that you'd have Ovechkin and Crosby go at it to open up the exhibition and bring back hockey. To
draw a national audience for the first game, for sure, that would be. Yeah.
But I am excited. This is like a whole it feels like a tournament. You know what I mean? The Stanley Cup playoffs are initially a tournament, but I'm getting that like World Cup tournament feel, like from soccer and stuff. Like you have like the qualifying round, then you have the first round. Like it was the first time ever that we're getting a qualifying round in hockey, and it's a best of 5. Then you have the other teams facing each other in a little round robin to determine seeding. Like this has never been done in hockey ever. So I'm excited to see something new, and I think it's going to work out.
24 teams. I got 2 teams and neither of them are in it, so I really don't care. But the Leafs and Habs to open up, I mean, that's a good game, and the Battle of Alberta, those are 2 really good games to start off in exhibition. I don't know how much of exhibition they're going to be. I mean, those 2 teams in each game hate each other, so it might be more of a regular season-based atmosphere just because they don't want to lose to their biggest rivals, essentially, even if it's an exhibition game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be just to get the players' feet wet, get back into like a competitive state. I imagine I that's what I want to know. I want to know if players are going to try. Like, how hard are they going to try? Are they going to put a full effort in, or are they just going to go out there for a skate, kind of feel the competitive edge for a bit, and then maybe I can see teams doing what's it called? Load management. They'll play their their starters a lot in like the first 2 periods, maybe by like a half of the second. We're going to see like the third and fourth lines get the majority of the minutes for like the second half of the game.
Yeah, but I do think the players are going to take it seriously because a lot of these games that they picked are rivalry games, so they're not going to want to. They're going to want to try. They don't like these teams. I mean, we look at how many of. We'll just go over these games. Pittsburgh, Philly, huge rivalry. Toronto, Montreal, probably the biggest rivalry in hockey. Edmonton, Calgary, another huge one. We saw what happened this year. That was a bloodbath. The Florida teams playing each other. St. Louis, Chicago is a big rivalry. The 2 New York teams, Islanders and Rangers, is another big one. Colorado, Minnesota are in the same division. Nashville, Dallas is another rivalry game. And the other one's Boston, Columbus, not really. Vegas, Phoenix, not really. And Vancouver, Winnipeg, and Carolina, Washington, which you talked about. But over half of these games are rivalry games. So I don't think we're going to see, these teams just haul it in. I mean, they're playing teams that they really don't like at all. So I still think it's going to be entertaining.
Yeah, I could still see though the load management part. Like, what if you don't want them to freaking like try their hearts out for a game that doesn't mean anything and then be injured right before the first game of the playoffs? Yeah. You want your stars to stay healthy for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe for the first period they'll go hard. We'll
Yeah.
see. But as for the games, I mean, Tuesday you got 4, 8, and 10:30. Wednesday's got a huge slate of games: 12, 2:30, 4, 6:30, 8, 10:30, and then ending off on Thursday with 4, 7, and 10. So those are the exhibition games for each team.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into the the games on what does it start? August 1st. So this Saturday or this Sunday.
There's a few things we need to talk about before we talk about the playoffs.
Yes.
A few, and I just thought of one that I don't think we wrote on our schedule here that I think we should talk about first because it happened while in our 2-week break, and it didn't happen that long ago.
Okay.
We have a name for the NHL's 32nd team.
Mm-hmm.
The Seattle Kraken. Release the Kraken.
And if they weren't sponsored by the Kraken rum, then I don't know what. Like that is
It would
just
have been a buzz.
that's just a
Buzz.
match made in heaven right there. That is
Thank God they
unbelievable.
did.
I like the name. I mean, between that and the Sockeyes, I like the Kraken. I know it's a lot of people have been crapping all over the logo and what it
Anyone
looks
that's
like.
born in 1985 and down doesn't like the name.
But you know what? I think it's interesting.
I'm just saying.
I think
That's
it's
all I've
interesting.
heard.
And we
All I've
basically
heard
knew
is the older generation don't like the name, especially like even the analysts. Like a lot of the older analysts don't like the name, but you find it in the younger generation and like the upcoming generation. They love it because they listen to the fans. Everyone wanted the Kraken. It's not because it's a goofy name. It's because what it represents and how sweet it is.
I found it funny when they teased the C and everybody's like, okay, well, it's either going to be the Kraken or the Sockeye then. So, but we got it.
Jeez, it's hard.
They got it. The Seattle Kraken. You're doing an NHL GM mode, franchise mode on YouTube. That's
It's been blasting off.
Yeah, it's been pretty successful. Guys, go check that out. Kyle does voiceover of the NHL 20 franchise mode with the brand new Seattle Kraken franchise. So go check that out. Kyle, what are your thoughts on, before we take our first commercial break here, the thoughts on how they're going to present the games? Like you sent me a few pictures of what the arena is going to look like
man.
with the the screens and everything like that. What are your thoughts on how the NHL has kind of prepared the arenas to look?
It's sweet. If you guys haven't seen it, I tweeted it out last night with the Armchair GM's pod. So go follow that at Armchair GM Pod on Twitter, and you'll see it. It's the most recent tweet, I think, or a couple of tweets down. It shows the rink setup, and it was only the pictures I could grab from the Scotiabank Arena, which it's the same as the Rogers Arena, but it is pretty cool. I love it. This is one of the things that I'm very excited for. Not only the format of the playoffs, but the way they're going to present the game. This is something crazy. This looks like a setup for like if they're going to do Harlem Globetrotters on ice. Like this is just insane. I think they did a very good job of blocking the rest of the empty arena out. I think that's what you want to do because I think it takes away from the games. I've seen it in sports already. I think it takes away from the games when you see empty seats, especially like baseball now that's doing fake crowd noise, but you can clearly see there's no crowd. It's kind of like that kind of ruins it for me at least. But for this, they're doing something amazing. And then with the setup, they said that whoever the home team is in the game, the setup is going to reflect them. So like it'll be all like save as the Leafs, it'll be all Leaf stuff everywhere. The lights will be turned to Leafs. They partnered with EA Sports for fake crowd noise for I don't know how they're going to do that, if it's just going to be on goals or if it's going to be during play. We're not really sure how they're going to be implementing the crowd noise, but it's going to be something to see because that whole setup looks awesome. The only thing I could see from my eyes, hopefully the camera won't catch it, but I think they should probably do is they haven't tarped all the seats. They kind of did like mid lower bowl and then down. I think for like the upper bowl and everything else, you kind of have to tarp it. Like I think you got to make sure it's like not in people's view at all. But from what it looks from those pictures, it looks sweet. Like I cannot wait for this to happen.
I'm just glad they didn't do the baseball route and like the Los Angeles Dodgers with those cardboard cutout, creepy looking people in the crowd. Like I can't even focus on the game. So I'm glad the NHL is not going down the road with that nonsense. But what do you think about possibly goal horns and goal songs for all these teams with their custom ones?
I think I like that. You want to have the team feel like they're having a home game. You know what I mean? Obviously, they're going to know that the rink is not their rink with the way the ice is, the benches, the overall feel of the rink, right? They're not going to know, they're going to know. But with everything else that they've built around, I think you can really do something great for the home team. I think it can really make them feel like they're playing a home game, and that's what the intent of all this is. It's to give a really cool presentation to the fans out there and also give a feel for the home team that they are playing a home game. So I'm loving that they're keeping the goal horns, the goal songs, everything that's they're accustomed to in their home rinks into these hub cities.
Even in Toronto, you're going to have to hear that Columbus Blue Jackets horn and the favorite song you love to hear, or possibly the Bruins goal horn and their song that you love to hear. That's, given a lot of Leaf fans PTSD over the years, but
I don't the potential of a Leafs and Bruins matchup again. I'm still I'm always going to be on the fence about it. I'm always going to be on the fence of yes, I want to because I want to exercise the demon, and it's the only way we could win a Stanley Cup the right ways if we beat them on the way to it. But then there's also the other side of the fence where I just don't want to face the Bruins like ever again because they've just will beat us every single time.
Guess what? At least Game 7 won't be at TD Garden, so maybe that would be the only positive.
They'll do their best to make it feel like it's TD Garden, that's for sure.
Yeah, so that's how that's gonna go with the setup for the NHL. I think it looks pretty good. But with that being said, guys, we're going to take our first commercial break on the show today, and we'll come back and start looking into these matchups and start picking some winners for the first round here. So we'll be right back here on the Under Review podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, serving traditional-style Italian pizzas made with the freshest, top-quality ingredients. Loaded subs and their famous chicken wings. Winners of the Reader's Choice Diamond Award, 4 years running from Niagara this week for Best Pizza and Wings in Niagara Falls. Home of the best tray and wing combo in town for the price and quality. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., located on the corner of Drummond Road and Dunn Street. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery at 905-374-4400. Make sure to like them on Facebook and view their website for their menu at carmine'spizzeria.ca. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. Way too good. As we all adjust to this new world that we're living in today, masks are now mandatory, and Niagara's own Custom PPE is Canada's leading face mask provider. Visit them online at customppe.ca and choose between several mask options with different colors and sizes. Add your organization, company, or team logo so you make your face masks unique. Available to purchase online 24/7 at customppe.ca and shipped within 1 week. They have the best prices and quickest turnaround in Canada, and no order is too big or too small. Also offering custom floor stickers as well as face and counter shields for your business or workplace. Visit customppe.ca and use the code ARMCHAIR at checkout for 20% off your custom or blank face mask today. Custom PPE, Canada's leading face mask provider. Attention job seekers, if you are currently looking for work in the Niagara region, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road, Niagara Falls, directly across from the Camisos Plaza. Their free services include resume and cover letter writing, community resource and referral information, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, second career information and registration assistance, and all their services are currently provided by appointment only. So give them a call at 905-358-0021 or visit their website at ehc.on.ca, the Niagara Employment Help Center. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
All right, guys, welcome back to the second segment of today's Under Review podcast right here in the Armchair GM Sports Network. Cappy and Kyle back with you here. And Kyle, let's jump right into these playoff matchups here. So let's start off with the seeding rounds for the Eastern Conference. We've got the top four teams of the Boston Bruins, Tampa Bay Lightning, Washington Capitals, and Philadelphia Flyers. I do want to say that this part of the program is brought to you by Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, home of the best tray combo in town, pizza and wings in Niagara Falls. Call today, 905-374-4400 and carminespizzeria.ca. So we're looking at Boston, Tampa, Washington, and Philly. Philly, Boston, Washington, Tampa, Tampa, Boston, Washington, Philly, Tampa, and Boston, Washington is how the schedule is going to go if you really wanted to.
Say that 10 times fast.
No, I can't. Anyways, so each team plays each other once. Kyle, how do you think that this thing is going to shake out here with the top 4 teams? These are very strong teams with Boston, Tampa, Washington, and Philly.
Just want to say, though, Carmine's has the best wings in town. I'm not just going to put that out there. The winners of that Reader's Choice
4 years
this year
running.
For best wings.
4 years running.
Just so if you guys need a place or a good wing spot, you're sitting there at night wanting to order skip the dishes. Nuh-uh. Why don't you put that app down? Once you call Carmine's, get yourself some wings, man. Top game in town. But as for the top game in town, will be the seeding round robin to find out which one's going to finish first, second, and third, and fourth seeding, and that will be determining who they play with the Stanley Cup qualifying rounds. But this is crazy. I kind of like the setup that they did. Like I said before the commercial break, I love the whole setup, what they've done with the Stanley Cup playoffs, the whole tournament feel type of it, and now this little like mini round robin to determine seeding. This is another one, like another couple of games that I'm going to wonder how much these teams are going to put into it. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't matter if they win or lose. They're still in the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? They're still going to be in the first round. So
second
I
round.
wondered. Sorry. Well, I think don't they list it as like a qualifying round, then the first round?
I guess, but yeah, second round.
Anyways, the second round, first round, whatever you guys want to call it out there.
Whatever the hell this is.
Yeah, but I just sitting there going, like, are these teams gonna try? Like, are they like? Is like Philly gonna go into it going, okay, we want that number 1 spot, but like, why? Like, if you finished 4th, you're still in the first round. I guess maybe is it gonna come down to who they want to play? Because if you finish with the first spot, you're gonna play one of, I think it's Toronto and Columbus. They play I believe it's them. They play the first seed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember the other ones. I can't off the top of my head. I cannot. Think of where the other
how can you
teams are.
even plan for that? Because those games are going to be going on at the same time. So like you can't really judge. You know, we're going to lose these 2 games to try and play this team, but then that team's losing. So now what do we do?
Yeah. So I just don't know like how much effort they're going to put in these round robin games, or are they going to do like exhibition format? They're going to have their starters go out for like the first game, or maybe like the second game. Like say like Boston plays Philly the first game, and what if they put more of their backups into that game, and then they play Marchand, their starters, the second game, which is against Tampa Bay. I'm really curious to see how the teams are going to take these games, or are teams just going to go out with the playoff team, like their playoff lineup, to get the chemistry going and get them warmed up for the first round or second round, whatever people want to call it.
And you have the increased roster size at the moment, so a lot of teams have these younger rookies up right now that probably wouldn't have been on the playoff rosters, so maybe those guys get a little bit more playing time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they go about that. That's another thing I'm curious to see, how teams are going to take those ones. But it's interesting to see how they're going to determine the seeding this way. And the matchups are interesting. Like each team is going to play once. Like they're going to play each team in the round robin seeding. So Boston's going to face Tampa Bay, Washington, and Philly once. So it'll be interesting to see. And I guess ties are determined on are broken with regular season point percentage instead of regulation wins. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So we're looking at they have the percentages here. So if Boston ends up tying with Tampa Bay for first seeding, Boston will get it because their point percentage was higher in the regular season.
Yeah, so it's technically Boston, Tampa, Washington, Philly right now with just the point percentages. But let's quickly just predict this. I'm going to go with Washington at 1. I just feel like they're going to come out flying. I don't know why. I have a feeling about Washington here. Tampa 2, Boston 3, and Philly 4. That's how I think it's going to play out. I think Boston, I don't think they really need to try in this thing. Like they know they have a team that's built for a deep playoff run. I don't think they really care about these 3 games that they might end up playing one of these teams later on in the Eastern Conference Final, but I don't really think that they need these points. It's not like you get home ice advantage anymore. I mean, it's not like they get to play in Boston. So realistically, I think Boston's a team that might use load management and might try to play a strategic route in this to maybe sit some guys or just try to gauge what these other teams are doing for later on in the playoffs. So I could see Boston kind of just purposely not trying as hard and giving away their whole hand. So I'm going to go with Washington, Tampa, Boston, Philly as the 4.
Okay, I like that. And I like the one part you said about Boston and like maybe Boston and Tampa, even Philly, or not Philly, the Washington Capitals using load management and being strategic about this. So mine's going to be a little bit different. I actually think Philly's going to finish with the number 1 spot. I think Philly's going to – I don't think they're going to use too much load management. I think they're just going to – they're going to go out there and take advantage of these other teams that will do that. And I think Philly's going to come out with a couple of surprise wins here, and I think they're going to finish first. I think Boston is going to finish second, even though Boston can use load management. I think their team is just so strong depth-wise that even if they play their backups and a lot of their depth players, they still have a strong core that can still carry them. And they have a good goalie. They have a good backup goalie. Halak's shown that he's proven that he can carry the team on his own without Tuukka Rask behind there. So I think Boston will at least finish second. I see the Washington Capitals playing the 3rd spot, so right now where they are. I like what you said about Washington. I think they're going to come out flying. I don't think it'll be coming out flying too much. I think they're going to like kind of tie with the second place team, but because of the point percentage, I think they have to go into that 3rd slot because they have a lower point percentage than Boston would, who I picked for the 2nd slot. And I'm picking Tampa Bay the 4th slot, man. So for some reason when it comes to the playoffs, and Tampa Bay doesn't seem like they have the best of luck at all. They always find a way to somehow choke and not get it done. So until I see that, I can't really go with Tampa Bay finishing in those top 3. So I'm picking them at number 4.
I could see Philly jumping into 1 just for the fact that I think people they see Boston, Tampa, and Washington kind of in their own league, and they kind of think that Philly doesn't really belong in that category with those teams. So they probably think, Philly has something to prove here that they belong in this group with these other 3 teams on the top of the conference. So I could see them coming out and really trying as well. So I definitely could see that prediction coming true. Philly kind of just taking a little bit more seriously than the other 3 teams, because the other 3 teams have basically, they know that they're top 3 teams in the conference. Philly is kind of still trying to prove themselves with that. So
Kyle, they had a late season surge, climb to get to where they are. So I think they're still going to be riding that momentum.
Yep. So I got Washington, Tampa, Boston, Philly in that order. Kyle's got Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, and Tampa. So let's move on to the Western Conference, and we've got St. Louis at 1, Colorado 2, Vegas 3, Dallas 4. I think this one is a little bit easier to pick, in my opinion, than the Eastern Conference. I think the East has a lot more top-heavy of a conference. I think the Western Conference has a lot more solid teams. But as far as these top 4 teams, I think it's going to be hard as the defending Stanley Cup champions to knock St. Louis off the top. So until somebody does that, I'm going to say St. Louis is going to have an easier ride here than maybe some other teams in the Eastern Conference. So I'm saying St. Louis 1. I'm going to go off what the seeding is right now. Big off the page pick here, but just the way that it played out, I just don't see it happening any other way unless the only thing I could see is Colorado maybe passing St. Louis for like swapping 1 and 2. So I'm going to go St. Louis 1, Colorado 2, Vegas 3, Dallas 4.
Interesting. Do you maybe foresee like what we talked about in the East, the load management thing coming into St. Louis and teams like Colorado?
But like you said about Boston, I just think St. Louis is so deep that even if they do sit some of their guys, they've got one of the deepest rosters in the NHL that I don't think it's going to really affect them too much, especially when it's these play-in round that people don't really know what the other teams are if they're gonna try 100%, if there's gonna be any load management, things like that. So I just think St. Louis is too strong, and they're just gonna have that number 1 seed.
So basically, what I have down, I've only switched 2 teams around. So I'll start from the bottom up. So I kept Dallas at number 4. Dallas to me I think they've just been stagnant for years. They've been staying in the same place. They haven't really done much to really. I mean, they've done a little bit to improve their team. I believe they acquired. Was it not, or am I thinking of Minnesota? Was it not that they acquired Zuccarello?
Yeah, but then he went and signed with Minnesota.
Okay, so anyways, Dallas just to me it doesn't seem like they're gonna be going. I mean, look at their point percentage, like .594. Like they barely scraped themselves into this round robin seeding. So to me, I don't feel like they're gonna be like the Flyers in the East and come out of nowhere and pass all the three of these deep teams. So I kept Dallas at 4, kept Vegas at 3. I know Vegas has proven that since they've come into the NHL that they're a competing team. They've improved their roster drastically over the last year as well. I just don't think I think the only thing that's going to carry them above 3 is if Fleury is going to come out of the gate on fire and carry them to that number 1 spot in the seeding. But until I actually see that, I'm still going to keep Vegas at 3. The only thing I switched was Colorado at 1 and St. Louis at 2. For some reason, I got this like gut feeling that Colorado is just going to be the team to beat in the West this year. I think they're going to be the team to actually go all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals when we get into those picks. But I can see them finishing first in this seeding, with St. Louis finishing at number 2.
I just think there's too many question marks with Dallas and Vegas. Like Vegas obviously has the strong forward group, but we don't know what Fleury's going to be, or if Robin Leonard's going to be the starter. Who knows? But Dallas, their depth just doesn't seem to be great enough for me. I really don't like their forward depth at all. So I just don't think they're going to be able to compete with teams like St. Louis and Colorado for this seeding round. So I agree with you there. So we basically have the same ones, except Colorado and St. Louis are swapped for the 1 and 2 spot, and Vegas and Dallas are sitting there at 3 and 4. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams, how much they try in these 3 games.
Right.
I think it's still going to be competitive because these are the 4 best teams in each conference as far as the standings go. So we'll have to see how that goes. But what are you thinking of this round robin in general? Do you like it? The fact that the 4 teams kind of get a little bit of get a chance to get warmed up a little bit, and they're not just going in cold as opposed to the other teams that are trying to fight their way in.
I think they have to. Like, you can't just be sitting around for 3 weeks and have scrimmages and team practice for 3 weeks. Like they've done enough of that over the last couple of weeks. I think you got to get some playing time and you got to get that competitive edge before you're going into like the first round of the playoffs, where teams are coming in to that first round from the qualifying round like ready to go and on fire. Like you can't. You're going to be going into that cold if you don't have these round robin games. So I think that's another aspect you can add to the round robin games if teams are actually going to go out there and semi-try, because you kind of want to be at 100% and have your competitive edge at 100% ready to go for that first round with these other teams coming in from the qualifying round. So I think that it is a good idea to have something like this, and it's hockey. I mean, we're getting more hockey out of it. So we had a unfortunate pause at the end of near the end of the season last year. Now we're getting multiple games like almost every day for like the next month in August. So it's going to be great to see.
Yeah, and I think it's going to take a while for these players to get back up to speed in game shape. I think Patrick Laine has come out and said there's no way that I'm going to be at playoff level for at the start, maybe by the end of it if they make it that far. But I mean, they've been off for 4 months now, so I mean we've
had a longer off season than they've ever had in their entire lives. So especially a lot of the veterans, and even rookies that are experiencing this. Like they've never would have thought they would have 4 to 5 months off of hockey.
Yeah, and then now they've got to jump right back into playoff play. So you've been off for 4 months, and then you restart the season in the playoffs. So it's going to be tough, but I think we have to kind of lower our expectations a little bit on what kind of hockey we're going to see at the beginning. I mean, these players are going to be rusty, so I think that should be a little bit to be expected. But it's going to take them a while to get back up to speed. But these first qualifying round, I think, is a good idea to kind of get their legs moving again. As as a hockey player, getting back out on the ice after being off that long, it's especially at these guys' level and in the National Hockey League, it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Yep. That's for sure.
So with that being said, guys, we're going to take our last commercial break on the show today, and we're going to come back and quickly pick each playoff round for the play-in round for all the teams that did not make the top 4 seeds, and the rest of the 24-team playoff. That doesn't include the Buffalo Sabres, unfortunately. But we'll be right back here on the Under Review podcast, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. J&L Flooring is a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride in providing elite customer service and support. They are a specialty flooring and decor boutique shop with a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety and truly unique selection of products. All their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel great about your flooring choices. Their goal as a local business is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity, offering unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team. They connect with their customers to simplify the process to make their life easier and to make their homes beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road, Niagara Falls, or find out more at jnlflooring.com. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 905-358-3299 J&L Flooring. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill is located on the top of Clifton Hill and just a 5-minute walk from the majestic Niagara Falls. It is conveniently nestled in the heart of the tourist district. A family-owned and operated business, the Spicy Olive opened its doors in May of 2003 and has since been established as an authentic and unique Italian restaurant and bar. Its rustic ambiance and time-worn finishing provide a warm and inviting dining experience. Offering an array of delicious dishes, they specialize in authentic Italian cuisine, homemade sauces, fresh ingredients, and consistently providing a strong foundation on which they build their menu. As night falls, the Spicy Olive shifts to a lively lounge where drinks and live music come together to make a perfect evening. For more than 15 years, they have provided not only for their dedicated locals, but their customers from all over the world with authentic Italian food and great live entertainment. Open daily 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. for dinner and till 2 a.m. for drinks. Check out their new menu and book reservations on their website at Spicy Olive Bar and Grill, it's with an E at the end, .com, or call 905-371-2323 for reservations as well. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
All right, guys, welcome back to the final segment of today's Under Review podcast. Cappy and Kyle back with you here. And Kyle, we're going to go and pick each matchup here for the Eastern Conference and Western Conference for the first round play-in series here. And then we'll come back with another episode going over the second round, third round, and the Stanley Cup Finals and all of that. We can't fit all that into one video. That'd be like a 5-hour video. That's going to be way too long. But so that's why we're going to break it up for you guys. Shorter videos is what you guys want. Shorter episodes. Yep, exactly. So the shorter podcasts are the way to go. So we're not going to bore you with 4-hour episodes. So that being said, today this segment is brought to you by Custom PPE. It is Canada's leading face mask provider, best prices and quickest turnaround, built from right here in the Niagara region. Order today at customppe.ca and use the code Armchair at checkout for 20% off your custom face masks today. So go and check them out. Let's get into the first matchup here, Kyle. We've got Pittsburgh versus Montreal, and to a lot of people out there, a lot of fans and analysts, this seems to be the most lopsided matchup in the entire first round, with the Pittsburgh Penguins playing the Montreal Canadiens, who barely snuck into the playoffs. If they would have played that game against the Buffalo Sabres and lost, Buffalo would have taken their spot, let's just say that. So Pittsburgh is in the 5 seed, Montreal the last seed to get in the Eastern Conference. Kyle, as a diehard Leaf fan, I'm sure you've got a lot of good things to say about the Montreal Canadiens in this round.
I mean, first off, how do you think you would have done if it was you facing Pittsburgh with the Sabres?
I would have been happy, because then we would have lost and had a chance at Lafreniere.
I mean, you're not wrong there, but I think this is so tough for Montreal. Like, I want to like speak non-bias here and not just talk as a Leaf fan who hates the Montreal Canadiens, which, you know, that comes hand in hand with Leaf and Habs fans. But it's just, you look at these two teams and you look at even like how they finish the season, like Pittsburgh finishing in 5th in the Eastern Conference with 86 points. Montreal finished with 71 points. Like, just, and that was 86 points in 69 games. Montreal finishing 71 points in 71 games, a point percentage of 500. Like a point percentage difference of 123. Like, to me on paper, Montreal has no chance of winning this. Like, Pittsburgh has every capability here to sweep Montreal right out of the playoffs, and I think that that's probably going to happen. And I don't want any Montreal fans to feel bitter about this one, but
It's just a mismatch.
You're not. I don't. It's just Pittsburgh is way too, and they've shown Pittsburgh in the later half of the season, from what I remember in like February, March, or before March, like before the pause, that Pittsburgh was turning it around, and they're still showing that they can still compete with teams. And now you're going against I mean, even a cold Pittsburgh, I still will be afraid of. I know there's been some weird complications with Crosby lately, but even looking at their team, like the people that are coming up now that have come out of nowhere, it's just like I think Pittsburgh just has too strong of a team to lose to Montreal in that first round. The only thing that's gonna tear Pittsburgh away is if their goalies fail them. I think that's the one aspect of it that Montreal could have a chance against. Matt Murray, I mean, he's been very injury prone the last couple of years. Tristan Jarry has proven that he can be a starter, I think, in the NHL with a little bit more grooming. And I think on a Pittsburgh team with a team in front of him, he could be a decent goalie. So if both goalies or at least one of the two can do good for Pittsburgh, I think they'd be okay. I just can't see Montreal coming out of this with a victory. So I'm going to stick with my pick here. I think Pittsburgh's going to win in a sweep, 3-0.
It's a complete mismatch on paper. You look at the two lineups and you look up and down, and Pittsburgh just has Montreal in almost every single category. Again, the only way I think Montreal even steals a game in this series is if Carey Price plays like the Carey Price of old, which had carried Montreal all those years to even get to where they were. It's unfortunate that it's kind of like he's kind of past his prime now, and he never got to really showcase what he was able to do since Montreal never really had the strongest of teams. Montreal is going to give it their all. Well, we don't know if they're going to give it their all with Alexis Lafreniere, the French #1 overall franchise player available.
I mean, that's something you can look at. If you lose, you got one of the best chances at Lafreniere. You have a 12.5% chance along with other teams at Lafreniere. And could you imagine Lafreniere going to a French team? Like Habs would have their next franchise player.
Yeah, it's a match made in heaven already. It's already ready to happen. But Montreal, they're a gritty team. They didn't have the best roster this year, but they were still competitive. The coaching by Claude Julien got them up to speed. But I'm going to say Pittsburgh wins this one pretty easily. I think Montreal might steal a game, so I'm going to go with a 3-1 series win for Pittsburgh in pretty easy fashion. I think Carey Price might be able to steal one game for Montreal. It might even be like the first game, like maybe Pittsburgh with the Cole Crosby situation comes out a little bit slow, and Montreal is maybe able to steal the first game. But once Pittsburgh gets going, there's no way you're stopping that train if you're Montreal. So I'm on Pittsburgh in a 3-1 series, and you're on a 3-0 sweep for Pittsburgh. So
they're just too strong. Like, even up the middle, if Crosby's out, you guys got like Malkin, McCann, Bluger, who's a guy who's come out of nowhere for the Pittsburgh Penguins and shown that he can hang with the boys. Like, it's just the Gensel, Sheary, Zucker, your boy Patrick Marleau, Rust, Hornquist. Like, it's just they have a strong team. And even in the back end with Letang, Dumoulin, Marcus Pearson was having a good year before COVID stopped. Like, Jack Johnson can still maybe shine a little bit on that last deep pairing with Justin Schultz. It's too strong. Like, they I don't think Montreal has any chance. And that's not saying anything bad against Montreal. It's not
mismatch.
An even matchup.
No, it's a complete mismatch. Going on to the next series here, we've got Carolina and the New York Rangers. Carolina being one of the two teams with the Tampa Bay Lightning that were against this format that ended up being chosen, and mostly it's some Ranger fans say that they were scared to play the New York Rangers, so that's why they didn't want this format. So Carolina sitting in the 6th seed, the Rangers in the 11th seed, and I think the Rangers have exceeded expectations a little bit this year. They got Artemi Panarin, but they're still in their rebuild a little bit, and I think they've kind of accelerated that faster than maybe some people had thought. So the Rangers, they're kind of a sleeper team there in the Eastern Conference, and they have played Carolina very well this year. So this could end up being a very long series.
I think this is a very, very even matchup. Like, looking at both teams' roster right now, it's just they match up pretty easily. Like, forward wise, it's both their top nines are very, very strong, and we've seen on the Rangers this year the resurgence of our boy Ryan Strome. He's definitely found his fit on this team, playing with a guy like Terry Panarin in another fast winger on the right side with Jesper Fast, pun intended. And then even the first line for the Rangers of Kreider, Zibanejad, like Zibanejad's had a massive year this year. Bugnevich has come out of his shell a little bit. And and Capo Caco, I mean, he's had a rough start getting used to the North American ice with like a lot of European players that come over, but we can't count his skill out of this. Like Capo Caco could be a silent killer for the New York Rangers. They seem, like you said, they seem like they've accelerated their rebuild a little bit. I think they're going to be a sleeper team for sure. I think this series has the potential to go all 5 games. I'm predicting them to go all 5, and I think the Rangers are going to get it done. I think the Rangers are going to win in Game 5, and it's going to be dramatic fashion. It'll be a late 1-goal game or even an OT game, but I have the Rangers going over Carolina in this one.
Yeah, I have it going to 5 games as well. I think Carolina wins it in Game 5. You have the Rangers winning it in Game 5, but I don't think this is going to be a very quick series. I think this is going to be a very good series that has the chance of being one of the best and most entertaining in the playoff round 1 here to go the distance. I would bet on this series more than a lot of these other series to have a chance at going the distance. So I'm with you that it's going to be in a 5th game, but I'm going to say Carolina has a little bit of an edge over the Rangers just because of their defense depth. From 1 to 6 is just ridiculous. We don't know if Dougie Hamilton's going to be ready to go or not, but I still like the Carolina Hurricanes over the New York Rangers as of now. I think the Rangers are going to be a very good team in the Eastern Conference for years to come, but I think for this year, I'm going to say Carolina gets it done with their very strong team that is in a win-now scenario. So
yeah,
I'm on Carolina in Game 5. You're on the Rangers in Game 5. So very good series.
I just hope we see Hamilton back because I want to see a Ice Dog versus Ice Dog matchup there.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Maybe even get a picture of that. Frame that. Anyways,
right.
Let's move on to this is a matchup that I'm not really the most looking forward to. We got the New York Islanders against the Florida Panthers. The Islanders, the number 7 seed. The Panthers, the number 10 seed. This series
just odd.
This series is this to me. That's what this series feels like to me. I
think the NHL's feeling the same. Because you see the game times for these games?
Yeah, they got the 12 o'clock slot, 2 days. And 4 o'clock.
I think the NHL's just like, okay, we'll just stick them first. No one's going to be watching this.
So, Kyle, getting into Florida, they have some very strong young players. Like, we love Huberdeau, Barkov, guys like that. Ekblad on defense.
Dadonov
has had a good year. Mike Hoffman. They traded away Vincent Trocheck for whatever reason to Carolina. So, but Florida, I don't really know how to feel about them. Obviously, Joel Quenneville being there now is a very experienced head coach, has won multiple Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks. I think that might be probably the only edge I would give over the Florida Panthers over the Islanders. Barry Trotz with his style of play. So you got 2 Stanley Cup champion coaches going at it in this matchup. I think that might be the most exciting part of this matchup. The Islanders playing they play a very good defensively sound game. They don't give up a lot of goals. So I seem like this series is going to be a very boring one. But what are you feeling that this series is going to give us from the Islanders and Panthers?
Look, Islanders on paper are the better team. I'm not going to lie. I'm not talking about skill-wise. Obviously, skill-wise, Florida Panthers with Barkov, Huberdeau, Hoffman, Dadonov, they have a strong skill team. But play-wise, just from seeing the Islanders play against the Leafs this year and last year, like the Islanders have a strong chemistry-built team. Like they might not have the top skill. They do have it in guys like Barzal and Eberle, but they have a team that's structurally built like to play all 4 lines and have all 4 lines come at you all freaking game. So that's a big edge I think they have over the Florida Panthers. I think the only thing that's holding Florida back from winning this series is the goalie situation. Bobrovsky has not shown this year he's a $10 million goalie. That's 100% for sure. So I think if Florida has any chance of winning this series, they need Bobrovsky to show up. They need the goalie they paid $10 million to show up and win them this series. But I really don't have faith in that just from watching him this year. I could be wrong, but I'm going to go with my gut here. I think the Islanders are going to take it, and I think they're going to take it in 4 games.
So 3-1?
Yep.
I'm with you on that 100%. I think the Islanders are just a very structurally sound team, like you mentioned, and Barry Trotz's experience, I think, is going to outweigh Joel Quenneville's, just because he hasn't really. It's only his first year with the team. He hasn't really been able to implement his whole system yet, and I just don't think the Panthers from top to bottom on their lineup is going to be able to compete against the Islanders, especially when they lose a guy like Vincent Trocheck. I just don't see the Florida's depth. Their top line might be better than the Islanders, but as far as the rest of their lineup goes and their depth, like you said, the Islanders will throw 4 lines out at you that will just be relentless. So I'm with you on the Islanders. I think they get it done in 4 games. I think the Panthers sneak out one of those games, but I think it's going to be pretty easy for the Islanders and Barry Trotz's system here to overtake the Panthers this year. I just don't, like you said, Bobrovsky's been way too inconsistent this year. Huge bust in this year for me for fantasy hockey too, but we won't go into that. He was terrible, but I'm with you that the Islanders over Florida in 4 games. And before we get into the last Eastern Conference playoff matchup, it's sponsored by J&L Flooring, a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. Simplified process in making homes beautiful is their specialty. 905-358-3299 and jnlflooring.com to start today. So we've got the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Columbus Blue Jackets, which you have talked about on the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Leafs edition. You have previewed this matchup, so let's hear it.
Just like J&L Flooring, I hope we take the floor out from underneath them in Columbus and able to win this series. I mean, I've talked about this already. I think that this is going to be a pretty even series. It's going to be tough because the edge is so back and forth with both these teams. Obviously, I think the Leafs have, and this is not just speaking biased, the Leafs have the offensive edge against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus does have a nice forward core, but I don't think we've seen a lot out of them this year. We've seen a late surgence late in the year. One thing that's cool, though, is both teams have brought up a CHL player that have made the team. Whether they're going to play enough minutes or a lot of minutes, it'll be one thing. The Leafs bringing up Nick Robertson, and then Columbus bringing up Liam Foudy. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of go into it. But I think skill-wise and just play-wise, the Leafs hold the advantage in offense over the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus does take the edge defensively 100%. Their defensive core is probably very, very strong compared to a lot of in the NHL. Guys like David Savard, Ryan Murray, Zach Werenski, Seth Jones, which Werenski and Jones play in the same damn line. That should be probably the number 1 D core in the entire NHL. Like, that's just crazy left and right side there. So they definitely hold the defensive edge. Then the goalie edge, I gave it to the Leafs. Obviously, with Frederik Andersen, guy gets, outed out in the Hart candidate every single year, because without Frederik Andersen, the Leafs aren't as good as they are. And I dare anyone to argue that with me, because Frederik Andersen is the Leafs MVP most nights out of the year, especially when a lot of the players aren't waking up. Andersen is still there, and they have a solid backup goalie with Jack Campbell, which we've seen after acquiring him. He's finally the backup that we can rely on to go in there and win us a game, just in case something happens to Andersen. And then I gave the coaching edge to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Obviously, Tortorella has way more experience in the NHL than Sheldon Keefe, who's freshly come up and hasn't even been with the Leafs an entire full season yet. But, I mean, Keefe has shown that he's changed the persona of the Leafs. He's changed the culture of the Leafs. Everyone is a lot more positive now. We've seen that. Babcock, it kind of looked like it was working to us as fans, but behind the scenes just really wasn't a good environment. A lot of players weren't really feeling it, but looks like a lot of the players do feel it with Sheldon Keefe, obviously from playing and getting coached by him in the Marlies with some of the players. So it's a really, really even matchup. I'm going to say the Leafs win because I'm going to take the bias pick here, obviously being my number 1 favorite team. But I think this is going to go at least 4 games for sure. And I think the Leafs can get it done, man. I think the Leafs can get it done in 4 games for sure. 3-1.
3-1. Okay.
Yeah. Just being that they're hot, technically, it's not supposed to feel like home ice, but it is home ice to them.
They get to sleep in their own bed.
They've had a really strong home ice. They can't go to their own homes. They're in the Bubble Hotel. They just got their own floor, like every other team. But anyways, it's their home ice. They know this ice. They could switch the lights to look like Columbus Blue Jackets, but it's still going to be their home ice. They know how the rink is, how to feel it, the benches, everything comes into a factor here. So it's going to be interesting.
Yep. I think John Tortorella and his coaching style, the way that the Columbus Blue Jackets play defensively sound, we saw what they did to the Tampa Bay Lightning last year. I think they're going to give the Leafs a run for their money. Unfortunately, I have to say that the Leafs are going to win this series in 5 games. I just think that I think that the Leafs are going to get it done, but I don't think it's going to be very easy. The Columbus Blue Jackets do play these high-octane offensive teams very well with their defensive structure and how Tortorella gets his team to play. Their defense core is very good. Their forward group is clearly not as strong as the Leafs, but and you got to give the edge, like you said, to Freddie Anderson. The guy gets snubbed for the Vezina and a Hart candidate every single year, it seems like. We don't know what Columbus's goaltending is going to look like. Korpisalo has looked pretty shaky so far, and from reports of what he's looked like in their practices so far. So the rookie Elvis Merzlikins might have to come in, and that, to me, that's just a complete mismatch against Frederik Andersen. So really the only thing I give the Blue Jackets the edge on is their defense, but I got to say that Toronto's going to end up coming away with the win here in 5 games, but I do think Columbus puts up a very strong effort, and I think that's a good season for Columbus considering they lost Matt Duchene and Sergei Bobrovsky this year. They lost a ton of players. They gave up the farm to get those players last year, but I think for them to still be in the playoffs, I think is a success considering how many players they lost last year. So I think the Blue Jackets give the Leafs a run, but Toronto comes away with the win at the end there in 5 games. So got to give the Leafs credit where it's due at some points.
Yep.
And but it's going to be a very, very hard-fought series. That and the Carolina Rangers series are the 2 series I'm going to be watching from the East, because to me the other 2 just seem like, they're not going to be very interesting and competitive. So that being said, let's move on to the Western Conference, and this segment's brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping job seekers find work with their free services and counseling professionals. 6100 Thorstone Road, Niagara Falls, across from Camiso's. Book your appointment today, 905-358-0021 or ehc.on.ca. We've got the Edmonton Oilers against the Chicago Blackhawks, and this seems like a very big mismatch in the Western Conference, just for the fact that the Blackhawks have obviously not been the same team that they were when they went on their dynasty run of winning multiple Stanley Cups. They're kind of in a transition phase. They still have Kane and Taves there, and Seabrook is backed out. Keith's still there at a very older Duncan Keith, not as effective anymore. They've got some nice young pieces there, but to me it just seems like Edmonton, obviously they're going to have the home ice advantage, like you said, with Toronto over in the Western Conference. I don't see this series lasting very long. I know that the playoff experience of Taves, they might be able to steal a game, but to me I think the Oilers are going to come out here flying, and I think the Oilers sweep the series.
I think there's a big question mark with the Chicago Blackhawks right now, because out of Sunday, Corey Crawford is questionable to even participate in the exhibition game, and they don't have any goalie depth. So I think obviously the Oilers are going to get it done, given the home ice factor. I know it sucks because you look at the Chicago Blackhawks on paper, they have a really decent team with a lot of young guys there, but they don't have – the young kids don't have the playoff experience yet that they kind of need, and that playoff grit that – it does prove that you need playoff grit to succeed in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So if they had Malcolm Subban at the helm, I don't think Chicago's going to go pretty far. So giving the question mark to Corey Crawford right now, I'm giving the edge obviously to Edmonton as well, but I have them sweeping the series 3-0.
Yep, exactly. There's too many question marks with Chicago. They weren't going to be a playoff team if it was under the regular format, so I think they're still transitioning to what they're going to be. Their goaltending situation is a mess. I think just McDavid and Draisaitl and those guys are just going to eat them alive. I think those guys could probably lead the league in points by the end of the first round. So I'm going to say Edmonton with MVP Draisaitl, it looks like, and Connor McDavid just going to be way too strong for the Chicago Blackhawks at this point in time, and with what they're going through in their transitional phase. So I think it's going to be a quick series for Edmonton, and having that home ice is going to help as well, knowing how the rink works. So I think Edmonton's going to sweep this series, and I'm not trying to crap all over the Blackhawks, but it just seems like a complete mismatch on paper, just like the Pittsburgh Montreal series. Moving on to an interesting series, we've got Nashville and Arizona, and before we get into that, let's just quickly touch on the news with the Arizona Coyotes, the mess that's been going on with their general manager John Chayka apparently leaving the organization, and the bite back from the ownership, him making a statement saying that it was ownership's reason why he left, not the fan base, the team, and everything else. So former Leaf and longtime NHLer Steve Sullivan is now the general manager of the Arizona Coyotes in the middle of a playoff, so that's just interesting to see a general manager just get up and leave, and he apparently has other options elsewhere that aren't in GM jobs, so that has been a complete mess this last week trying to figure that out. The Coyotes ownership has asked Gary Bettman for advice on the situation, so Arizona's got a lot of behind the scenes distractions going on right now, so I think it's going to be tough for them to come out of this being able to focus with what's been going on in their front office. So I think Nashville, obviously they have had their ups and downs this year. They've struggled at times. We don't know if it's going to be Pekka Rinne or Juuse Saros in the net, but I'm going to say Nashville comes away with this series in a 3-1 fashion.
Okay, it's interesting. If we had a upset alert button, I would hit it right now, because I think Arizona Coyotes are going to pull off the first upset of the Stanley Cup playoffs in this series. I think the Arizona Coyotes are going to win over Nashville. I just have this gut feeling that with the players that Arizona have on their team, some of them have been known in the past to be playoff performers. I think that's going to help them a lot. We've seen that Darcy Kemper and Antti Ranta have really come a little bit out of their shell a little bit more from being on Arizona. I know they've had some rough games this year, but from what I've seen sometimes is I think they could have strong games when the team in front of them is having a strong game. Taylor Hall, we can't really count him out. I think Taylor Hall could definitely, and Phil Kessel, guys like these two, and Derek Stepan are guys that could really lead the team into the promised land and could really step up for them in the playoffs. I just have this weird feeling that there's going to be a upset here, but I don't think it's going to be a sweep upset. This is going to go the distance. I think this is going all the way to Game 5, and I have Arizona Coyotes beating the Nashville Predators in an upset.
Okay, Arizona is it's a hot team right now for sleeper teams right now. There's a lot of people saying that they might go on a little bit of a run here with trying to keep Taylor Hall in the organization, or if this is going to be his one chance to make a run with them before leaving in free agency. So we'll have to wait and see with that. Again, this is a very difficult matchup. A lot of people are picking Arizona over Nashville, but with what's gone on in Arizona the last week, I think it's a little bit of a mess. So I don't know how much they're going to be able to focus on that. But for me, I got Nashville winning 3-1, but you have the upset alert with Arizona 3-2 over Nashville, so we'll have to see if that pick comes to fruition. You'll look like the real seer here, so we'll have to wait and see if Arizona, the 11 seed, can knock off Nashville, the 6 seed. Moving into our second last matchup here, Vancouver and Minnesota.
God, what a weird matchup this is.
This is the Western Conference equivalent of the Islanders and Florida Panthers for me.
It's just so odd, this matchup. Vancouver, I think they were another team that were they not supposed to make the? Oh no, they were at 7th. So it was Minnesota, I think, was one of the teams that won. Like Arizona barely scraped in with Chicago, but Vancouver, I think it's tough because I know this was 5 months ago, but I'm losing vision of what happened this season a lot. I'm pretty sure Vancouver had a late surgence in the second half of the season. They started figuring out how to win games, but they do have an elephant in the room and a distraction in the room. It was said over this summer that Brock Besser might be getting traded. So hopefully that's not the case, because I don't know why they would want to trade Brock Besser. The rumors are that the management have more faith in Tyler Toffoli than Brock Besser. Like, I'm sitting there going, what? You say you have more faith in Tyler Toffoli than Brock Besser? That can't be real. That really can't be real. But as for this matchup, it is strange. I think it's pretty evenly matched up. I know Vancouver's had a rough go and they're in a rebuilding stage, but I think their top 9 is really not that bad looking at it. Again, like I said, I think I remember they had a late surgence. Especially they got a kid like Quinn Hughes who's really developing really nice. He's going to be their top defenseman of their future. Jake Virtanen's finally cracked out of his shell. And then they got guys like Pettersson and Brock Besser, Bo Horvat, Tanner Pearson. They have a pretty decent lineup if they can show up to play. They do have an interesting question mark for goalies. Markstrom's really kind of broken out of his shell a lot as well. Demko is still, I think, their goalie of their future. He might be a long-term project. But just looking at both sides, I can't really go much more than that. I give the edge to like Minnesota. Like they do have a decent team as well. But I got a weird feeling that Vancouver is going to find a way to win in this one. And I think this might go the distance as well. I think in Game 5, Vancouver takes it.
Okay. So Vancouver in Game 5 over Minnesota. I'm on Vancouver as well. I think they might have a little bit easier time. I'm going to say 3-1 for Vancouver. I don't like Minnesota's team whatsoever. I don't like the players on their team. I don't like the system that they run.
You just don't like Minnesota.
I don't like. I love Minnesota's jerseys. That's about it. I don't like their team currently. Minnesota might have the best jersey lineup in the league, but that's a story for another day. But as far as their team, I don't like it. Don't like their depth. I don't like their decor. Not really a big fan of any of their players, so I'm going to give the edge to Vancouver here. Like you said, very young team trying to find their way up the Western Conference, but I think they're going to have enough here, and I think Markstrom's going to come up big, and I like Vancouver 3-1 over Minnesota. You got them 3-2 over Minnesota, but I can't really sit here and say I'm going to watch much of this series. It's going to be the late series, so maybe it has a chance for me to watch it because there's nothing else on at that time, but if this game was slated at 2 o'clock or 12 o'clock, I really wouldn't care whatsoever about this series. It's just doesn't really appeal to me. Sorry to you Vancouver and Wild fans out there, but we'll have to wait and see how this series plays out. And this is a series I want to talk about. And before we do, last shout out to Spicy Olive Bar and Grill, family owned and operated since 2003, serves authentic and unique Italian style food, along with drinks and live music to make it a great experience. Just off the top of Clifton Hill in Niagara Falls, 905-371-2323, or spicyolivebarandgrill.com to book your reservation. So we've got the Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets.
Speaking of spicy,
this is a spicy matchup right here. This is a very, very good matchup. I think this is the matchup I'll be watching most in the Western Conference, just for the fact that these are two very, very good teams, two very physical teams, but also have a lot of top-end skill as well. So for sure this series is going to distance in my opinion, and I'm having a hard time even picking a winner here in Game 5, so I'm going to let you go first with Calgary-Winnipeg.
I really think it's going to be the Winnipeg Jets over the Calgary Flames. And I know on paper and just from watching these teams before the pause that Calgary is a solid team. They're going up against a solid team like the Winnipeg Jets. The playoff edge from what I see in the past from Winnipeg, when it's there, they have the ability to take it to the next level. And Connor Hellebuck does that as well. Like these guys has had multiple great years, multiple Vezina candidates. I just think Winnipeg is going to be too much to handle for Calgary, and I think this is only going Game 5, and I have Winnipeg winning in Game 5 over the Calgary Flames.
So you have it going the distance.
Game 4. Sorry.
Game 4?
Game 4. It's not last. No, they're going to win on August 6th. Winnipeg is the home team, 3-1.
Oh man, I think it's going to be a very good series. Both these teams are going to come out with a lot of battered, bruised players from this series. This is going to be a very physical series. Two very, very good Canadian teams. I'm really going to be interested to watch this matchup. They got a 2:30 start on one of their games. I think they got kind of.
I think Lonnie's lying too. Lonnie's just being like modest. Like that guy is going to be ready to go. I think he's that type of player to just say stuff like that in the media. I honestly think like Patrick Lonnie is going to come out of the gate on fire. I get this weird feeling about Lonnie, man. He's got to live up to that like he was projected a number 1 overall pick too if Matthews wasn't there. I think Lonnie's going to do it, and Scheifele we know is just incredible. Ehlers, Kyle Connor's really broken out of his shell.
Blake Wheeler.
Winnipeg's way too strong for Calgary. Calgary is a good team, but I just think they're going to overcome them.
Yeah, I'm going to say Winnipeg wins it in 5, but I'm really looking forward to this series. Winnipeg just seems to me, you look at what a playoff team should be, I think Winnipeg is like the prototypical playoff team. They've got the skill up front, but they've also got the very solid two-way play, and all their forwards can basically play all different ends of the rink, and they can all they're all very versatile. They can all shoot the puck. They can all play defense. They can hit. they're very lethal offensively. So I really like the Winnipeg Jets to go deep in the playoffs this year, depending on who their matchup is against. I think they probably would have went all the way if they didn't, have some very tough matchups over the last few years against some very, very good teams like Nashville. But we'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to say Winnipeg wins it in 5 against a very strong Calgary Flames team. And this is the series I'll be watching most in the Western Conference. As far as the Eastern Conference, I think the Toronto, Columbus, and Carolina Rangers series is going to be another really good one. But for me, Calgary-Winnipeg is the one that I'll be watching the most.
I just realized something. They gave the Nashville-Arizona game, and this is it's listed here as 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. They're playing at like 11 a.m. over there.
Yeah.
That entire series. They're playing 11 a.m.
Yeah. Okay.
That's insane.
Yeah, so they got.
How do you get prepared for an 11 a.m. game?
Yeah, and Nashville probably doesn't play many afternoon games, so
that's why. I mean, that kind of helps the oh my god,
Coyotes?
why am I losing the word here? The Coyotes here. This is the surprise factor, the upset. That's the word I'm looking for. My god, end of the podcast. Upset factor.
Yeah, exactly. So some early games there for those teams, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. So that is our breakdown for the playoff matchups for the round robin and the first round. This video was a bit longer than we had envisioned, but there's a lot of matchups to go over. The next video, obviously, more teams will be out, so the next episode will be a bit shorter. But that's it, Kyle. Anything you want to say before we wrap up the show today with these matchups?
We're entering a new hockey world, ladies and gentlemen. It's something we're all going to get adjusted to. Not only the NHL players in general, but fans. Like the NHL players being in the bubble now for like the next 80 days or whatnot. It's going to be an adjustment for them living in hotel life for this entire like tournament, you can say. Even the fans watching, it's going to be something new. You just think about it. Like even after the Stanley Cup the Stanley Cup finals are going to begin September 22nd. The last possible day for the finals to happen are October 4th. We potentially could get the Stanley Cup final game in October. And then the NHL entry draft is October 9th and 10th. You got free agency period starting in October as well. The training camps for next year start November 17th, and it's a 14-day training camp. And then the new season literally begins on December 1st of this year. So it's just we're entering a new world in the sport of hockey. So it's going to be a very big adjustment for fans and players alike.
Absolutely, and we'll have to get used to the cities of Toronto and Edmonton for the next couple of months, watching games at those arenas, unfortunately. But folks, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of the Under Review podcast on our relaunch for the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans for sports fans. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode and our relaunch. A lot of big things coming. Obviously, you've seen a lot of things already, but a lot more to come with this sports network in the future. As always, I'm one of your hosts of the Under Review podcast, Cap. You can follow me on Twitter at Kapoots13 with a Canadian Z, and you can follow my co-host Kyle at JustKyle51. Again, check out his NHL franchise mode with Seattle Kraken. Very good stuff. Getting a lot of views on YouTube, so go check that out. A big thank you to all of our great sponsors who help put us on and support the network, keep the show on the air, and finally to you viewers out there for tuning in and listening along with us for this episode. And once again, this has been the Under Review podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans for sports fans. Enjoy the first round. We'll see you guys next episode.